Welcome to MJTV Global News, informative news with a global perspective. My name is Natasha Johnson.
And I'm Steve Moore. In this evening's news, talk still an option with Nigeria's military telling Boko Haram. Maiduguri, Nigeria's military on Wednesday told Boko Haram militants that talks remained an option as top brass visited troops in the group's traditional stronghold. To the insurgents, the dialogue table is still open. Else, the national power is available to the armed force to crush the insurgency, Army Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Kenneth Minama said in the northeastern city of Maiduguri. Minama was accompanied on the visit to the city, the scene of the daring Boko Haram strike on a military barracks last Friday, but his Air Force counterpart, Air Marshal Adesolo Omoso, Nigeria's counterinsurgency effort has largely involved ground troops, supported by air power, but a wave of deadly attacks recently have prompted questions about whether the strategy is effective. Some defense analysts have previously urged the government to open channels of communication with more moderate elements with Boko Haram and broaden the counterinsurgency fight to include economic and social development in the impoverished north. And on Tuesday, National Security Advisor Sambo Desuki unveiled a new broader counterterrorism policy of soft power programs to complement military force. Minama, appointed in January after President Goodluck Jonathan sacked his entire military top brass, said the visit was aimed at boosting morale, with Omosu said he was satisfied with the impact we have already inflicted on the enemy. The Air Force's rule was to harass the enemy and to convince them that they need to come either to the table or drop their guns. Natasha?
Thank you, Steve. France took a drastic step of banning cars with license plates ending in an even number driving in Paris and its suburbs on Monday in an effort to curb a dangerous spike in pollution. By midday, about 4,000 fines had already been handed out to drivers breaking the traffic ban 7.5 hours after the measure known as alternating traffic had come into effect. Despite the public transport being made free, some felt they had no other option but to drive to work or take their children to school. On social media, disgruntled Parisians questioned the motives behind both the decision to limit traffic and the fines being handed out. The state will fill its pockets, and it's always those who have no choice but to pay, says one driver. Another driver states drivers are being targeted even though heating is more polluting, but no one is asking for heating to be used on alternate days. Electric and hybrid cars had been exempted from the ban. The Paris region had been hit by a sharp spike in pollution in the past few days, brought on by climate conditions, hot days, cold nights with no rain and little wind, that are making it difficult for pollutant particles to disperse. Doctors have warned the high pollution levels pose a significant health risk with potential causes of asthma attacks as well as respiratory and heart problems. Pollution was at health-threatening levels. It is the second time the drastic measure has been introduced since 1997. Do you see?
That almost reminds me of the alternate side of the street parking in New York. But still over in international news, Ukraine's government says Russian forces stormed the military base in Crimea and killed a Ukrainian officer, escalating tensions in that region. Tensions in the disputed region of Crimea reached new heights Tuesday as Ukraine said a military officer was killed shortly after a Russian formally annexed the breakaway peninsula. Interim Ukrainian Prime Minister Arseniy Yatsenyuk blamed Russian forces, whom he said stormed the Ukrainian military outpost near the school of Simferopol, for the killing, and warned the conflict is shifting from a political to a military stage. Today, Russian soldiers began shooting at Ukrainian servicemen, he said, according to AFP. This is a war crime. His claim could not be immediately verified, but if true, it would mark the first fatality in clashes between the two countries. During the weeks-long crisis in Crimea, Russian President Vladimir Putin delivered a televised address to the country's parliament on Tuesday, defending his country's decision to absorb the region after it voted Sunday to split from the Ukraine. Now, to a commercial.
Hey, babe, you see my keys? Can't find my keys. Oh, there they go. Be in the corner right quick. I'll be back. Yeah. In the corridors of my mind, I imagine what the road of life will be like.
Music got me high, so high I reached the sky. Guaranteed, my love it shall be. I pray to God constantly.
Hello and welcome back to MJTV Global News. In France, culture minister returned 3 paintings that was seized by the Nazis during World War II to the heirs of their one-time owners at an official ceremony on Tuesday. The paintings that were returned were the mountain landscape, portrait of a woman, an oil canvas dating from the 18th century, and a Madonna and Child painting. All the works all the works of art identified as having been stolen by the Nazis are kept in French museums, which are required to report them and put them on display, in hope that previous owners, their heirs, or their assignees will identify them and claim them. Nearly 2,000 looted artworks remain unclaimed. So far, France has managed to return only 70 of the thousands of pieces of art that was seized by the Nazis. Steve?
You know, they're just coming out with a movie about the soldiers that were sent to retrieve all of those stolen artifacts. But in environmental news, this is how big oil can hurt Greenland. The Danish territory recently awarded exploration licenses to BP, Statoil, and more, reversing a tightening of the offshore drilling policies and raising hopes of eventually independing these companies. But activists worry that the bounty, the Arctic around Greenland, may hold billions of barrels of oil will come at a dangerous cost. The damaged ecosystem, despite a large Danish subsidy, Greenland's economy relies on fish exports like prawn and Greenland halibut and cod. Conservationists feel that the impact the vibrations and undersea noise from vessels or drilling operations may have on fish behavior. Also, disrupted community. Some of Greenland's 57,000 people struggle with alcoholism, sexually transmitted diseases, and depression. A sudden influx of new workers, mostly foreign men, may exacerbate those issues and breed new ones and spur cultural clashes. Tasha?
Thank you, Steve. A little store in Hollister, Missouri shopping center is offering the basic needs of clothing, hygiene items, and baby supplies for free. The shop called Selfless Blessings was started by Andrea Burdine after she witnessed a thrift store turning away a man who asked if he could have one of their coats. According to her, he wasn't asking for money. He was cold and he was wet and he needed a coat. Like many of us, Burdine was compelled to act. She found him, gave him a coat, told him how sorry she was, that she couldn't believe that happened in her community. After posting her frustrations on Facebook, a new group was born wanting to do good for those in need. Now she runs a shop of her own where people throughout the community drop off their used clothes and household items so Andrea and her volunteers can give them away. The Facebook group is open to all and is called Selfless Blessings.
It's been a rise of acts of kindness these
Yes,
days.
a lot.
Now, from our nation's capital, Washington, they were heroes who didn't get their due. And on Tuesday, 24 mostly ethnic and minority U.S. soldiers who performed bravely under fire in 3 of the nation's wars finally received the Medal of Honor that the government concluded should have been awarded a long time ago. The servicemen, Hispanics, Jews, and African Americans were identified following a congressionally mandated review to ensure that eligible recipients of the country's highest recognition for valor were not bypassed due to prejudice. Only 3 of the 24 were alive for President Barack Obama to drape the medals and ribbons around their necks. Today we have the chance to set the record straight, the president said. No nation is perfect, but here in America, we confront our imperfections and face a sometimes painful past, including the truth that some of these soldiers fought and died for a country that did not always see them as equal. The 3 surviving recipients, Vietnam veterans Jose Rodela, Melvin Morris, and Santiago Rivera, received a prolonged standing ovation at the president's side, their faces set in somber acknowledgement of the honor. Natasha?
Wow, isn't it great to be in America? We will go to commercial break. We'll see you soon.
Music got me high, so high I reached the sky.
Welcome back. In New York City, the city has agreed to pay $98 million to settle a case alleging that New York Department, the fire department, discriminated against minority applicants. Now, New York City reached a historic settlement with the Vulcan Society of Black Firefighters, agreeing to pay $98 million in back pay and benefits to minority FDNY applicants without acknowledging intentional discrimination at the fire department. It was the latest decision by Mayor de Blasio to change course and end a legal controversy stemming from the Bloomberg administration. The FDNY discrimination case spanned 7 years and began when the U.S. Justice Department under former President George W. Bush filed a landmark lawsuit alleging that the 2 written exams for prospective firefighters were biased against blacks and Latinos in an effort to keep them predominantly white. The feds and the Vulcan Society won the case in 2011 when Brooklyn Federal Court Judge Nicholas Garofis ruled the firefighters' exams were intentionally discriminatory and appointed a monitor to oversee the FDNY's recruitment and hiring of minorities. But the following year, in the U.S. Court of Appeals, they overturned the part of the judge's ruling that held the city's practices were intentionally discriminatory. A March 31st bench trial was looming to decide the issue again, but de Blasio chose to put the case, which was fiercely contested by his predecessor, to rest. This administration is fully committed to ensuring every New Yorker who seeks to take on this heroic role has a fair opportunity to join the ranks, de Blasio said as the settlement was announced Tuesday. Natasha?
Wonderful. Thank you, Steve. Also in New York, Loren Scott, the fashion designer and girlfriend of Rolling Stone frontman Mick Jagger, was found dead in her New York apartment on Monday from an apparent suicide, said the musician's spokesman. The spokesman said Mick Jagger, currently on tour in Australia, was completely shocked and devastated by the news. A law enforcement official said Scott's assistant found her hanging from her doorknob on Monday morning. The official said no notes had been found on the scene and that there were no signs of foul play. Scott, in her late 40s, was a former model and had been dating 70-year-old Jagger since 2001 following his split from his wife, Jerry Hall. To you, Steve.
In Las Vegas, a Las Vegas substitute teacher, Tanika Queen, 22, was booked into Clark County, Nevada jail Wednesday on counts including sexual assault against a child younger than 16, statutory sexual seduction, sexual act with a pupil, and first-degree kidnapping. The substitute teacher allegedly developed a sexual relationship with a 15-year-old 8th grader at Hyde Park Middle School in Las Vegas. Tamika Queen, 22, confessed to having sex with the student. They exchanged hundreds of texts professing never-ending love, police said. Basically, she's looking at sex-related charges with a minor, sexual seduction, luring, kidnapping, with a host of other charges that are still pending. In February, police were tipped off to a possible relationship between Queen and the student, and detectives uncovered troubling texts that were pretty much very romantic rather than sexual, according to Detective Young. Natasha?
Thank you, Steve. Unidentified hackers brought down several public NATO websites with cyber attacks on Saturday, in what is said to appear to be the latest escalation in cyber warfare amid growing tensions over Crimea. A group calling itself Cyber Berkut said the attack had been carried out by patriotic Ukrainians angry over what they saw as interference by NATO in their country. Cyber Berkut is a reference to the feared and since disbanded riot squads used by government of pro-Russian Ukrainian President Viktor Yanukovych, as well as the main NATO website. The website of a NATO affiliate cybersecurity center in Estonia was also affected. The alliance said none of its essential systems were compromised. In a statement on its website, www.cyber-berkut.org, the group said it had targeted 3 NATO websites over what it claimed was the alliance's interference in Ukraine and support of the Kyiv junta. Cyber Berkut, which some experts believe may be affiliated with Russian intelligence, published its statement in Russia rather than Ukrainian. Steve?
We'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back, and now we're going to cover the weather. Right now in Nassau, the Bahamas, is 82 degrees, which is probably lovely. Precipitation's at 40 humidity at 75%, wind at a nice 10 miles per hour. In Warsaw, Poland, they're at 52 degrees with cloudy, slight precipitation, some rain. Humidity is at 75%. Their wind is at 14 miles per hour. In Rome, Italy, they have partly sunny, it's 66 degrees. Precipitation is at 0. The humidity is 69%. Wind is at 6 miles per hour. Fargo, North Dakota, partly cloudy, 45 degrees. Precipitation 10%. Humidity 63, and their winds are coming in at 14 miles per hour. Detroit, Michigan, raining, 50 degrees. Precipitation at 50%. Humidity at 71, and their winds are at 22 miles per hour. Tampa, Florida, partly cloudy, beautiful 82 degrees. Hi, Mom. Precipitation 10%, humidity 58%, wind is at 9 miles per hour. At Denver, Colorado, clear and sunny, 57 degrees. Precipitation is 0, humidity is 20%, and their winds are at 7 miles per hour. Paris, France, partly cloudy. They're at 66 degrees, precipitation at 0. Their humidity is 52% with their wind at 6 miles per hour. Natasha?
Wonderful. I wish I was in Tampa, Florida
Tell
at
me
the
about
moment
it.
right now.
Or the Bahamas.
Yes. Well, having just performed at the Academy Awards, where he sang his Oscar-nominating hit Happy, Pharrell Williams is partnering with the United Nations Foundation to promote the annual International Day of Happiness, which is Thursday, March 20th, which is tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Since the song Happy, which made its bubbly debut on the film Despicable Me 2, it has become an international phenomenon, with its album Girl reaching #1 in more than 75 countries. Drawing its inspiration from the happy videos that fans worldwide have already posted, Williams is calling on all his fans to post videos of themselves demonstrating their happiness using the song and hashtag Happy Day, and registering their submission at 24hoursofhappiness.com. Calling it the first 24-hour music video, Williams will be posting the best ones all day long on Happiness Day, tomorrow, March 20th. Fans are also encouraged to use hashtag Happy Day with their photos and other social shout-outs. As part of this global digital engagement, people will be reminded that everyone deserves to be happy, and their donations to the UN humanitarian efforts around the globe can make this happen. So go and donate.
That was a nice story. But have you ever figured out why Pharrell wore that big Curious George man in the big yellow hat that day?
No.
I don't know. Another piece of odd news. In one of China's busiest airports, it was put on lockdown after a passenger in a hurry joked that he had a bomb stuffed inside his butt. Witnesses said the man was moaning about slow security checks at Beijing International Airport on Monday when he made the flippant comment. Worried he would miss his flight, he reportedly told officers at Terminal 3, "Do I need to drop my pants as well? I have a bomb up my blank." Shocked agents asked him to repeat the question, and when he did, he was arrested. Sorry. The incident led to the terminal being shut down, with passengers moved to other areas of the airport for safety. A search found no threat, and the high alert was scaled down hours later. The man, who has not been named, was also searched. Cops failed to find the bomb, so he was taken to a police station and is now spending the next 5 days behind bars. He reportedly told cops he was angry about the checks and did not anticipate the consequences of his comment. And folks, to close out, before we do say goodnight, just wanted to remind you, spring break is coming up for the children in the Atlanta area. Please be careful while you're driving. These children will be out playing because the weather is going to be wonderful within the next week and a half. Watch out for our children.
All right. Thank you for joining us at MJTV Global News. We're saying good night.
Be safe. See you next week. That was a funny story. I couldn't help it.